spiritual audition taking place. Right? He was obviously overtaken by kayfiyat. So when they asked Al-Ghaus al-Azam for his actions of why he did that when Khwaja Gharib Nawaz got up, he says, because had I not put my asa on the ground, the entire dunya, the universe would have gone to Raqs. That's the kayfiyat that he received. Right? So these personalities that we speak of, they were physical beings as in dunya, but they had authority throughout the universe. They had presence in the universe. The entire dunya used to go into Raqs with him. So Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi spent approximately 20 years in the company of Khwaja Osman Haruni and traveled with him all over. And that's where we get the very famous malfuzat called Anisul Arwah. Anisul Arwah, these are the malfuzat and the teachings that are passed down from the Chishtiya Mashayikh. Anisul Arwah, what was taken, Gharib Nawaz took the malfuzat of Khwaja Osman Haruni and made Anisul Arwah. Then you get Khwaja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki that spent time with Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti. And from him we get Dalilul Arifin. Is the compositions of all the malfuzat of the sittings with these mashayikh. And then you have likewise the various other books of the Chishtiya Mashayikh, like that of Rahat al-Qulub and the various different books that we get of this. The point being is what these mashayikh used to do. What was their interactions like? Right? They were people that continuously gave ta'alimat. They were people that taught. They were people that were constantly in halaqat of dhikrullah and teaching people. And from the various teachings that we get from Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi, we know in his very famous final sermon, 40 days prior to his passing, like the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi gave the very famous sermon where his opening line was love all and hate none. Right? And if we have to analyze the life of Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi, he gives many prescriptions on how you can attain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as I mentioned, if you have to look at the ibadah of Khwaja Gharib Nawaz, we can't do it. If you have to look at the khidmat, the type of magnitude of service he did, it's difficult. You have to try and live his routine, difficult. Right? But he left us with pertinent advices. And those advices is when you come to realize that Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi, his main teachings was on becoming Insanul Kamil. In becoming a polished, a good human being. That's what it is. If you have to take the asal ta'aleem of Chishtiya Mashayikh, if you have to take the asal ta'aleem of what the Chishtiya methodology is become a good human being. Learn how to treat people. This is one of the traits in today's time that unfortunately is lacking. Is our interaction with fellow human beings, our thought of fellow human beings. Right? All these type of concepts. And inshallah, in the remainder of the time, we'll have some ta'aleem that we'll take from Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi, 4 principles that we should reflect on, direct from the Chishtiya Mashayikh. And this is the ta'aleem that you'll find with all the Mashayikh in Chishti. This is the constant ta'aleem, is how to be a good human being, how to be Insanul Kamil, how to be beneficial to the next man. And the first point of advice that he gives, Khwaja Mu'inuddin Chishti Rahmatullah alayhi, he says, service to humanity is the best way to attain spiritual growth. Service to humanity. Being of service to insan. This is one of the things that we see from him, is that close to 1,000 years later, you go to the darbar of Gharib Nawaz, you are still being served. You are still being looked after. Everything you need, you'll find there at Gharib Nawaz. Even though he passed away 1,000 years later, that pot is still being cooked. The poor and needy are still being fed. Everyone is living on the name of Gharib Nawaz in Ajmer. Right? So this is service to humanity. His Gharib Nawaz for 40 years of his life was in khidmat al-khalq. Looking after people. Looking after who? Looking after the downtrodden, the poor, the needy, the widows, those that needed assistance. Not worrying about who it is that needs it, but being of service to the next man. And this is what we need to ask ourselves. And all these principles are taken directly from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Is how much of benefit am I to humanity? How much of benefit am I to my community? Or am I just the me, myself and I person? I just stick to my own. Whatever suits me, whatever makes me happy, if I'm comfortable, that's all that matters. And whereas this is what you see from the awliya Allah, and the teachings of Gharib Nawaz is become a person that's of service to humanity. Become somebody that's beneficial to the next person. Often in today's time, we want to look down at people, even those that are trying to do good. We want to look down upon people, but how much have you done that's benefit to the community? How much have you done that uplifted people and brought them up? And this is one of the clear teachings that we see from Khwaja Chishti rahmatullahi, is that the time that he lived in, over 9 million people converted to Islam because of his da'wah. A man that comes to a land of Hindustan, cannot speak the language, is challenged by the Rajput rulers of the time who had a dynasty of over 5,000 years. Prithviraj Chauhan, the amount of challenges that he put forward to Gharib Nawaz. But at the end of the day, he still conquered with love. He still drew people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those that opposed him, those that came and challenged him, eventually became great awliya Allah themselves because of his sacrifice. So this is service to humanity, khidmat al-khalq. And then he says, tolerance and forgiveness are the keys for spiritual growth and inner peace. Tolerance and forgiveness. If we are not people that are tolerant, and we are not people that forgive others quickly, how are you going to become a beloved of Allah? One of the mashayikh is to very beautifully say, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-forgiving, who are you to think you can't forgive? If Allah's quality is Al-Ghaffar, He is the one that forgives even your own wrongdoings that nobody else knows, but Allah forgives. Allah is the one that shows compassion. Allah is the one that shows mercy. But yet we don't find it suitable to forgive others. We want to hold grudges against others. And that is why one of the very strong methodologies that we learn amongst the Mashayikh Chishti and that the ta'aleem of Gharib Nawaz is to be a tolerant human being, to be a forgiving human being. If somebody does wrong to you, be quick to forgive. Be quick to be tolerant with the next person. Don't be judgmental on the person. We often think that becoming Sufis is about flying in the air. It's about just being the whole night in the ibadah. All that is there. But it's also about how to be an insan, how to be a good human being. Junaid al-Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi, when he was asked to describe what tasawwuf is, he says it's nothing else but husnul khuluq. Nothing else but good character. If you can be a good human being, you're a Sufi. If you can be a person that forgives quickly and is tolerant towards others, you're a Sufi, you're a man of Allah. And how often in today's time, we find people, small petty differences. Small petty differences. Somebody doesn't smile at you properly, you won't forgive him. Somebody tells you this, you won't forgive him. Hold it in your heart. Right? How can we have baggage in our heart and try to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? One of the awliya Allah and Salihin very beautifully mentioned that the flight to Allah is a light one. You cannot be carrying baggage and trying to fly. And this is what Khwaja Gharib Nawaz teaches us, is to be a tolerant person and to be easily forgiving. If somebody does wrong to you, forgive that person easily. Why? Allah is the one that ultimately forgives. And if you forgive easily, you are imbibing an attribute and quality of Allah. Allah knows all your faults. Pir Nasiruddin Nasir, rahmatullahi, one of the very great Chishti masters, mentioned, why look at the faults of others? Why try to take out the faults of the others? Worry about your own faults that others don't know about you. Because Allah knows about you. Focus on yourself. Focus on your own wrongdoings. Focus on how much of guna you commit before worrying about what the next man is doing. And these are the beautiful teachings that we take from awliya Allah and Salihin. Why? Is because the duty was to come and refine insan. Because to come and refine, that's Rasulullah's mission. إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. That I've come for nothing else but for the refinement of character. And then Khwaja Gharib Nawaz says, love and compassion is the essence of spirituality. Muhabba, love and compassion, being an overflow of love. You know, in today's time, subhanallah, we live in such a time of hatred. We live in such a time of where people are constantly slandering one another. People are constantly having an issue with the next person. People are constantly taking out faults of the person. Everyone wants to take everyone out of Jannah and put them in Jahannam. And this is where one of the ulama mentioned very beautifully, Allah's Jannah is so big, it's massive. We cannot even fathom how big Jannatul Na'im is, how big Jannah is. Why you want everybody to be out of it? There is space for everyone. There's space for everyone to be in Jannah. Don't try taking people out of it and making them kafir. And that's the times we are living in. Everyone is slandering. You must notice when you go to any gatherings, and if you sit on the table to eat after that, the discussions that come out. Did you hear about so and so? Did you hear what this one said? Did you see what that one did? And yet we just came out of gatherings where we remember Awliya Allah. We came out of gatherings where we remember Rasulullah. We remember all the servants of Allah, but the moment we go onto the table, we want to take out faults of the next person. Leave alone that, we enter the masjid and we're worried about what the next man is doing. Not worried that you are there before Allah, worry about yourself, Allah. Worry about your own journey to Allah. Why are you worried about the next man's faults? So these are the teachings. Gharib Nawaz teaches us love and compassion is what will help you in spiritual growth. The moment you become a compassionate human being, that is one of the qualities of being insan, is from uns, is to have feeling, is to have softness into your heart. Rasulullah was harisun alaykum. He had a soft approach to people. People did wrong to him, he was still kind to them. I mentioned it in the khutbah yesterday. The people of Ta'if stoned him. They stoned him to the point where blood filled up his na'ali mubarak. They stoned him to the point where he had scratches on his face. But what does he do, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? He still makes dua to Allah. Ya Allah, I hope you are not angry with me. Ya Allah, forgive these people. They do not know any better. Ya Allah, from their progeny there will be people that will say La ilaha illallah. Saying loving all and hate none is a profound statement. It sounds simple. But try acting it. Try bringing it into your life. Then you'll realize the essence of the teachings of Gharib Nawaz is to love all and hate none. Do not hold any discrimination towards anyone. If somebody does bad to you, you do good to them. One of the Mashayikh mentioned beautifully, what's the point of only doing good to somebody that does good to you? What good is there? If somebody only does good to you, it's obviously natural that you'll be good to them. Try being good to somebody that does bad to you. Try doing good to somebody that speaks down about you. Try doing good to someone that slanders you. That's when the true test of the nafs comes in. That's when you see refinement of human being, of insan. It's very easy to speak about prophetic character. It's very easy to speak about Gharib Nawaz, but become like them. Become like them, not in ibadah. Become like them in character. That's where it starts. And then finally he mentions the final point of advice. He says the heart of a believer is the throne of Allah. Al-qalbul mu'min arshullah. And it should be kept pure and clean. How does Allah reside in a heart that was pure and clean? This comes from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. وَإِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. Rasulullah ﷺ mentions that there's a piece of flesh in your body. If that piece of flesh is sound, your entire body is sound. But if that piece of flesh is corrupt, your entire body is corrupt. And that is the qalb, the heart. How do we expect to become perfect servants of Allah? How do we expect to have the love of Allah and Rasulullah in our heart when we keep filth in our heart? And that is why the Salihin mentioned to us that there are three types of hearts. Three types of hearts. One is qalbun marid, qalbun mayyit, the dead heart. Then you have qalbun marid, the sick heart, the diseased heart. And you have qalbun salim, is the sound heart. And this is what Allah speaks of in the Quran. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. To come to Allah with a pure heart. This is what Gharib Nawaz teaching is. If you have to read his whole Dalil al-Arifin, it's all about making your heart pure, making your heart clean, removing all the traces, the negativities, the shayateen influences. In today's time, how many of us focus on that? As I mentioned, Yarbi very good, Sandal very good, Chadar very good, all of this is very good. But how focused are you on your heart? How focused are you on removing those vices of your heart? Do you still have jealousy in your heart? Do you still have greed in your heart? Do you still have enmity towards somebody else in your heart? Do you have envy in your heart? Do you have hubbud dunya in your heart, love of the dunya? And if you still have all of it, then you can do all the gyari, all the ratib, all the daira, all the sandal, nothing will happen to you. Start making amal. The time has come where we need to stop just focusing on rasmat, on rasam. We need to start focusing on the journey. If we do not focus on the journey, we'll be like those that just stand by the shoreline and watch the sea. We haven't jumped in yet. That's what Amir Khusro says. The one that jumps in and drowns, he's the one that gets the cross. You can't stand by the shoreline and admire the sea. You can't say, I'm Qadri, I'm Chishti, I'm Murid of so and so. I go for this whole function, I go for that Milad function, and no change in your life. When you become a Qadri, when you become a Chishti, when you become Nizami, when you become all these various titles, is when you start living the ta'aleem of the awliya. When you bring them into your life. When we come to those gatherings, reflect on their life. Gharib Nawaz lived like this. How can I take one characteristic of Gharib Nawaz and implement it in his next verse? How about that? Love all, hate none. Have like earth like hospitality. Have river like generosity. Have sun like kindness. These are all ta'aleem from Gharib Nawaz. Teaching you how to become what? Insan al-Kamil. Become a good human being. Leave all the titles aside. Leave becoming whatever you want to become. Focus on becoming a good human being. Focus on becoming a human being that's of benefit to the Ummah of Rasulullah. Focus on becoming a human being that keeps his heart clean and doesn't hold any grudge for the next person. If he be like that person, Rasulullah gave this advice to Sayyidina Anas. Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik quotes this, where Rasulullah says, be like that person who keeps their heart free from grudges, ill feeling towards the next person from morning to evening. That's following my sunnah. And he says the person that follows that sunnah will be kana ma'i fil jannah, will be with me in Jannah. That's the person that will be with Rasulullah. That person whose heart is clean, dil saf. That's the first principles we learn from the Ahlul Tasawwuf. The first principles we learn from the Mashayikh. And these are the beautiful teachings that we take from Sultan al-Hind. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost, make me practice upon what I have said. And for us to take this ta'aleem to heart, and to take the teachings of Gharib Nawaz to heart, and become true mu'inis, and become true Gharib Nawazis, and become true lovers of the awliya Allah by means of acting their ta'aleem. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.